Okay, 7.5. We are solving two-step inequalities. The first thing I want to refresh you on is how we graph inequalities. So graphing inequalities, you have to check to see if there is a line under the inequality. If it is, it means color it in. Color is that in, okay? If it's less than, it goes to the left. Less than looks like that. The point is facing to the left. So if it's less than, it's going smaller, more negative. And if it's greater than, that's the open mouth first. If it's bigger than, it's going to the right. Okay? We're going to just do a reminder on how in the world we graph things, because we need to be confident with that today. If I were to graph x is bigger than -4, now we've done it. We've done it before, so this shouldn't be too hard. Make sure, though, that you make a nice number line that has a little bit of negatives and a little bit of positives, so it looks decent. And now I'm going to make a circle at -4. Do I color it in or not, class?
No.
No, because there's no line under here. There's no line, so I don't need to. And then if I'm bigger than, do I go to the left or right? I go to the right, so it looks like that. So x is bigger than -4. Next one. X is less than or equal to 2. So again, I'm going to just draw a number line. You're probably not going to be a big fan of drawing number lines today, but just deal with it. Look how easy my number lines are, and they still look neat. Okay? I just did a little bit of positive and a little bit of negative. I made sure to include the number that I'm comparing. So this is x is less than 2, so I'm comparing it to 2. So I make a circle at 2. Do I color it in?
Yes.
Why do I color it in?
Because it's greater or equal to.
Because why?
It's greater, less than, or equal to.
Because there's a line under there, also read as less than or equal to. That says color it in. Color it in. And which way do I go, left or right? Left. I'm getting small. X is smaller than it. So if I'm getting small, I'm getting in the negatives, or more negative if I'm already there. Okay, that's the first refresher, is graphing inequalities. You need to be confident at that. And again, our goal is to first make a, what I did is I make a circle at the number it's being compared to, and then I determine if I color it in, and then put my arrow in. Okay, today though, it's not going to be about graphing inequalities because we've already done that. We are going to be solving inequalities, multi-step inequalities, as a matter of fact. A basic two-step inequality equation is what we're doing. So it's the same method that we've always done. The first thing you do is move what's not connected. The second thing you do is move what's connected. And lastly, we're going to graph.
No.
All right, we're going to do an example together. I cannot graph this equation yet. I can't graph, or I should say inequality yet. Okay, because y isn't alone. So our goal is to always get the variable alone. You cannot graph until you get the variable alone. So that is always my goal. Get it alone. So this is 2y minus 3 is less than or equal to -5. What's not connected to my variable? This -3, right? And how do I move that -3? Add 3. So I'm gonna go through the very tedious part of showing my work here for these first couple of examples. And I get 2y, that cancels, is less than or equal to -5 plus 3 is what? -2. Now that's saying 2 times y. How do I move times? I divide it. So now I'm going to divide by 2. I'm going to divide by 2. Right? And I get y is less than or equal to -1. There. Now y is all by itself. Now I can graph it. Okay? my goal, get it alone, then graph. So now I can make my little number line. And I am making a nice, neat number line, okay? I have a less than or equal to -1, so I make my circle at -1. Do I color it in?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's got that bar under it. And I'm less than, so I'm going super far in the negatives. So the solution set is really what we're doing, and this is advanced 8th grade stuff here, but let me enrich you for a minute. The solution set, if I said describe what y could be, you could say, well, y could be from negative infinity, right? Because it keeps going and going and going and going and going in the negatives, right? Negative infinity all the way up to -1, and that can be included. So meaning I have a bar under it. That's the enriched 8th grade way we represent it. So we definitely do it like this in 8th grade. Now say goodbye. All right. Okay, this first example that we're going to practice independently, I have 4x plus 3 is bigger than 19. So what do I move first, class? The 3, right? I move that plus 3 because that's not connected. And I move that by subtracting. Whoops. So I'm going to subtract 3. I'm going to subtract 3. I get 4x is bigger than 16. Now this is saying 4 times x. 4x is 4 times x. How do I move times? Divide. So now I divide both sides by 4. X is bigger than 4. Make my number line. Sometimes, if I choose to be lazy, like many of you might want to do, this is what I do. Notice what I did when I made my number line? I just benchmarked the number I'm comparing it to, which is this 4, positive and negative. So it's equidistant from 0 is really what I did. So if I'm bigger than 4, looks like I have a circle at 4 colored in or no?
No.
And then I'm bigger, so I'm going all the way to infinity. Do you want to see what that would look like 8th grade style?
No.
Yeah, you do. So we start at 4, right? And where's it going to? Infinity. So you say you start at 4 and you're going all the way to infinity, and that's how you describe the solution set. Okay? That's nice, right? Some nice math. All right, I want you to do this next one. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is what class? What am I going to do? Add 2, right? So I'm just now I'm not going to show every part of my step. I'm just going to show here that 2x is less than or equal to -2. That shows me that I knew I needed to add 2 to both sides. Now how do I move that 2? Divide. X is less than or equal to -2 divided by 2 is a -1. Okay, so make my number line. And I get less than -1, less than or equal to, do I color it in?
Yes.
Color it in, go like this. Okay, now for those of us that are challenging ourselves and using 8th grade interval notation, I had one student get it 100% right. We always go, where's the smallest number? Well, our smallest number is negative infinity, right? That's where I go from. Negative infinity to -1, but there's a bar under it, so I end it like that. It's a bracket. It says include it, color it in. It's included. Okay? All right, we're going to take a break from that, and I want you to write this next heading. This is the trickier part. If we have a variable on the right-hand side, our goal and our strategy is to flip it to the left. So we switch it to the other side. If we switch it to the other side, we need to make sure to switch the inequality too. Looking at this first example, it looks ugly. this is said 4 is less than 2x plus 2. Well, I never want my variable on the right-hand side, so I need to switch it. I need to make my x side come all the way over. So I just rewrite it like how it is, 2x plus 2. Now what's facing it, the open mouth or the point?
Open.
The open mouth. Leave the open mouth facing it. That's the hard part. Now this is the super hard part. Okay, knowing that you want to flip it. Now I can move my 2, and I get 2x is bigger than 2 by subtracting 2 to both sides. Now I divide by 2. X is bigger than 1. And grab it. I have an open circle at 0 going to the right, and we're look up. Okay.
You can tell always that which way the arrow will be going because the inequality sign.
Right, you can always tell because look, but that's only if the variable's on the left-hand side. Because what if somebody solved and then put it in? You know, so let's say that they did 2 is less than 2x, and then divided 1 is less than x. Well, that a lot of 7th graders would be putting the arrow in the opposite direction. So we always want to make sure that variable's on the left-hand side. Very, 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 very important. Okay, I want you to flip this one. You try to flip it. Again, it's red. 5 is bigger than 3x minus 1. 5 is bigger than 3x minus 1. My variable is on my right-hand side, so I want to flip it to the left. So I just rewrite it, 3x minus 1. Now what's connected to it, the point or the open mouth?
Point.
The point. Keep the point facing it, and then we got the 5. Now I add. 3x is less than 6. Now I divide x. X is less than 2. Now I have an open circle at 2 because there's no bar under it. I'm smaller, so I'm going this way. Right? Awesome. I think that's about what the objective I wanted to get to today. It just said solve 2-step inequalities. The next step is MD and Fing equations, but we're going to do that more tomorrow.